There are 27 amendments in the United States Constitution that have been put in place to ensure freedom, equality, and the well-being of all Americans. Of these 27 amendments, not a single one has been created to limit one of the biggest problems in the United States and around the world today, climate change. After researching a little into this issue, I went to my local Sierra Club chapter manager, Casey Mattoon, to talk about what he knows on the issue of climate change and the challenges he's encountered while trying to work towards a healthier environment.
The hardest thing when we're trying to actually gain ground for an environmental movement is trying to figure out how do we combat and organize people against organized money.
The House today debating a bill dealing with ozone air pollution standards, and we're joined by Patrick Ambrosio, who is environmental reporter with Bloomberg BNA. The House is debating a bill mainly supported by Pete Olson of Texas that would delay the implementation of these rules. Why and for how long?
Well, it would delay the immediate implementation, that 2016 deadline. It would push it back by 8 years, which would then sort of subsequently push back all the other deadlines that states would need to meet.
The bill came out of committee on a straight party line vote with Democrats opposed, Democratic leadership telling their members to oppose the bill in the House. What's their biggest beef against the bill?
Pretty much the whole thing for most of the Democrats. Frank Pallone of New Jersey described it during the markup as an attack on sort of one of the foundations of the Clean Air Act, this idea that these national standards should be based solely on health. There shouldn't be an economic concern when they decide, what the level needs to be for the air to really be healthy.
After learning more about the political aspect of maintaining a healthy environment, I went to my AP environmental teacher to talk about who specifically is impacted by these environmental issues.
All the political issues, probably environment's probably the number one I pay attention to, but I think other issues are intertwined in that in terms of, if we look at pollution, often occurs in more rural and poorer areas, so environmental issues do kind of have a socioeconomical kind of tie as well.
After talking to Mr. Butler, my interest was piqued on how an unhealthy environment impacts lower-class people more than others. And so I met up with Adrian Evans, who currently works towards reducing the impact of pollution on marginalized groups.
We work in a coalition throughout the state working on social, environmental, and economic justice. And so a lot of the work that we do is lifting up the voices of those who are most marginalized, particularly in communities that are more rural, that have become sites of speculation for fracking, oil and gas industries, and a lot of environmental encroachments. Climate change is real, and that we have really grave threats facing the environment, but they impact people differently. And so it's very difficult if you have not been NIMBY, right, not in my backyard. If you're somebody living in an area where you've got these kinds of things happening, where the air you breathe is toxic, or the water that you drink, or you've been impacted some way directly, you get that. You get the real consequences of what this means.
Adrian Evans works on relieving the impact of environmental issues after people have already been affected. But what groups are working on fixing the problem before it destroys more lives? To find out more about this, I interviewed my brother David, who works on an organic farm that provides vegetables to low-income communities.
The mission of the farm, simply put, is good food for all. We believe that access to fresh, organic, healthy vegetables and produce in general is a basic human right. And that's something I also personally believe. I think food is a right just as much as water, shelter, air that we breathe. These aren't things that I think should cost money, and they should be something that people can always access freely instead of having to pay money for it. It's very inhumane to me to deny people food just because they don't have money. We are all dependent on the earth and its systems, its natural systems. And in order for us to survive, we need to help the planet survive and create a conducive environment for human beings to stay on this planet.
The preamble states the Constitution's purpose is to promote many things, including the general welfare of all Americans. After talking to 4 people about the impact of an unhealthy environment, It is clear to me that we need to add an amendment to the Constitution that precisely defines how much industries, corporations, and everyday people can impact the health of Americans and their surroundings.